Okay, imagine this. You're on a virtual meeting, right? Seeing your colleagues, hearing them speak, people you know.
Mhm.
But lately, maybe there's this little voice in the back of your head, this unsettling thought.
What if?
Exactly. What if that person on screen, their voice, what if it isn't actually them? What if it's like AI, so good you can't tell?
And that's not science fiction anymore. That's pretty much where we are now with deepfakes.
That's the unsettling reality we're diving into today, deepfakes.
Right, synthetic media. Videos, audio, images, all generated by AI deep learning, specifically to mimic real people.
Making it seem like someone said something or did something they never actually did.
Exactly, and it's getting incredibly convincing.
And we should probably mention shallow fakes too, quickly,
Yeah,
because they're related.
good point. Yeah, shallow fakes are maybe simpler, using more traditional editing, splicing clips, changing context. Still deceptive, though.
Definitely. So for this deep dive, we've got this pile of sources, articles, research papers, notes.
Yeah, covering the definitions, how fast this stuff is growing, the threats, um, the ethical side of things, and what people are trying to do about it.
So our mission today, unpack all of that for you. What are deep fakes? Why are they blowing up like this? What's the real world fallout? And, what are the countermeasures?
Let's get into it.
Okay, so the first thing that just leaps out from the sources is the speed, the growth rate. It's exponential.
Oh, absolutely staggering. There's this Ofido report from 2024 on identity fraud.
Yeah.
It found a 3,000% increase in deepfakes online. 3,000.
Wow.
And alongside that, a 500% jump in digitally forged identities.
3,000%. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that number. And the sources say it's because AI is getting better, obviously, but also the tools are just easier to get.
Precisely. It's not just for tech wizards and labs anymore. It used to feel like you needed serious coding skills.
Right.
But now the sources are clear. It's way more accessible.
Yeah, you've got open source code, sure, but also apps, websites, online services.
Things anyone can basically use without much technical background.
Just need some source material, a photo you posted, maybe a voice clip.
Which brings us neatly to where this stuff tends to live and spread.
Social media, the natural habitat, as you said.
Exactly. Platforms like Reddit, YouTube, the sources describe them almost like a free market for this AI content.
Makes sense. The speed, the reach. A deepfake can go viral almost instantly.
Spreading to millions potentially before anyone's had a chance to fact check it or, take it down. It's tailor-made for spreading disinformation fast.
And here's the kicker, isn't it? Social media isn't just the distribution channel.
No, it's also the feeding ground.
All that public content, we share photos, videos, voice messages.
That's the data. That's what trains the AI models to make the deepfakes.
So it's a cycle. The platforms host the fakes, and the content on the platforms fuels their creation.
It's quite a feedback loop.
Okay, so let's dig into the impacts then. Because the sources make it really clear these aren't just theoretical worries anymore.
No, not at all. There was this one study that looked at discussions on social media, Reddit, YouTube again, about deepfakes.
And it pulled out the main things people are worried about.
Exactly. It revealed these key ethical themes that keep coming up in conversation. The first big one is consent and autonomy.
This feels really fundamental, doesn't it? Using someone's face, their voice, their image without permission.
Often without them even knowing it's happened. Users talked a lot about how that violates your basic right to control your own identity, your autonomy.
Yeah, it's dehumanizing, like reducing someone to just data points to be manipulated.
That word, dehumanizing, came up. And you saw this flare up publicly too, right? The actors' strike in 2023.
Right, protesting the use of their likeness without consent was a huge part of that.
And the study showed it's not just famous people worrying. Regular social media users are genuinely anxious about being deepfaked now.
Okay, so that's the personal violation. What's the next big theme people were talking about?
Misinformation. This is probably the one that gets the most attention.
Because the fakes look so real, they can be used to just lie very convincingly.
The scale is just massive. One study estimated fake news, which deepfakes obviously make way worse, costs the global economy something like $78 billion a year.
$78 billion just for lies spreading around.
Yeah. And it's not just, Fake celebrity gossip. It can hit corporations, undermine trust in official communications.
Or even worse, right? The sources mention impacting the justice system.
Yes, there was a really disturbing example. Mentioned deepfake audio allegedly used as evidence in a child custody case, trying to swing the outcome with fake evidence.
That's chilling, using it to potentially manipulate legal decisions.
It's a terrifying prospect.
Mm.
And social media just acts as an amplifier, pushing this stuff out.
Reaching people who might be more vulnerable, older people may be less tech-savvy, or kids.
Exactly. Think about that Mr. Beast scam ad example, using his AI-generated voice and face to target his young audience with fake giveaways.
Exploiting that trust kids have in him.
Precisely. Now, it's fair to say the study also showed some users are getting better at spotting flaws, or they talk about detection tools.
So people aren't totally helpless.
No, but there's this constant underlying worry about the arms race. Detection gets better, but the generation AI gets better too. It feels like a race that detection might be losing, or at least struggling to keep up with.
And that struggle, that uncertainty, seems to feed right into the third big theme from the study.
Eroding trust. This might be the deepest, most corrosive impact long-term.
Just this general sense that you can't trust what you see or hear online anymore.
Yeah, this broad societal fear. If deepfakes are everywhere and they're getting harder to spot, how can you believe any digital content? News footage, a message from a friend, anything.
That has huge implications for just how society functions if that baseline trust disappears.
Absolutely. The study found people on social media saying exactly that. Some were hesitant to post anymore, others were actively deleting old content.
Really, taking stuff down out of fear it could be used against them.
Yes. Fear of being deepfaked. Some even said they preferred talking offline now.
Wow, that's a major shift away from the share everything online culture.
It really shows how deep the anxiety goes.
Yeah.
People drew parallels to Photoshop. You know how we already distrust perfect photos?
Right, that's definitely photoshopped.
But deepfakes add video and audio to the problem, which feels much more intimate and potentially believable.
And the fact that it's getting easier. Like, you could potentially make a deepfake of someone from just one picture you find online.
That just pours gasoline on the fire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes a trust problem worse. Trust in institutions, trust in content, even trust in each other online.
Even trust in your own digital past, if it can be twisted like that.
Exactly. Which leads us to the final big theme the study highlighted: abuse and harmful use.
So this is where the technology is actively weaponized.
Right. Contrasting it with, potential good uses, art, maybe film editing, personalized messages for fans, gaming avatars. There are upsides.
But the sources are pretty blunt about the main use right now.
Extremely blunt. That 2019 study cited found non-consensual pornography made up 96% of online deepfakes. 96%.
And nearly all targeting women.
99% depicted women celebrities in that study. Apps like Deep Nude were specifically designed for this horrific purpose.
That statistic is just grim. It lays bare what's driving a lot of this development and use.
And beyond that specific awful use, you see other abuses detailed.
Yeah.
Identity theft, cyberbullying, revenge porn.
Things that can destroy reputations, cause immense emotional harm, wreck careers.
Absolutely. And it's not just personal harm. We've seen huge financial crimes enabled by this too, haven't we?
Yeah, those cases mentioned in the sources are pretty shocking.
They really are. February 2024, that British engineering firm ARUP lost $25 million.
Ow.
An AI voice clone of the CFO called an employee in finance and tricked them into making transfers. Just the voice.
$25 million from a fake voice call? That's insane.
And there was a similar case, a Hong Kong firm, also $25 million lost. But that one used a deepfake video conference call. Multiple fake executives on the screen.
Wow. So it's getting more sophisticated than just audio.
Definitely. And what's crucial here is how these attacks bypass typical security. They're not hacking systems. They're exploiting human trust.
Hacking the person, not the computer.
Precisely. And because it relies on tricking someone, the fraud can go on for a while before anyone notices the money's gone.
And there were other examples too, right, affecting online communities.
Yeah, the sources mentioned the Atrioc Twitch streamer incident accidentally revealing a website selling deepfakes of other female streamers. Caused a huge uproar.
Understandably.
And that Indian actress, Rashmika Mandanna, the deepfake video of her, went viral in late 2023, leading to public outrage and even a police investigation.
So these examples really drive it home. This isn't future tech, it's happening now. Real harm, real money, real people affected.
Individuals, businesses, public trust.
Yeah.
It's hitting on multiple levels.
And when you list those harms, violating consent, spreading lies, breaking trust, enabling abuse, it really brings us back to basic questions about AI ethics, doesn't it?
Absolutely. All these concerns map directly onto core AI principles we talk about. Things like privacy,
Mm.
dignity, transparency, is something what it claims to be. And non-maleficence, the duty to do no harm.
Deepfakes seem to challenge all of
They
those.
really do. They push how we even interpret these principles. Like, does privacy extend to your likeness, your voice? Clearly, yes. Is a deepfake transparent if its nature isn't disclosed? No.
So using someone without consent hits privacy and dignity. The deception hits transparency. And the harm caused. Well, that violates non-maleficence pretty directly.
Exactly. Deepfakes provide really stark, real-world examples of these ethical lines being crossed by technology.
Okay, so given this escalating threat, this ethical minefield, what can actually be done? What are the sources saying about mitigation? Let's start with the tech side.
Right, technological detection.
Yeah.
That's obviously a big focus. We're seeing platforms emerge, like the University at Buffalo's Deepfakeometer.
Deepfakeometer, okay.
Yeah, it's an open access tool.
Hmm.
It uses research prototypes to try and spot AI-generated media.
Yeah.
It's partly for researchers, partly for the public to get a feel for detection, though they caution the results are, based on ongoing research.
Still good that tools are being developed.
And the trend is moving towards real-time multimodal systems,
Meaning.
meaning they don't just look at pixels, they analyze audio,
Mhm.
visual cues, even behavioral signals all at once. Because, like we saw with those big fraud cases, just checking one thing isn't enough if human trust is the weak link.
So looking for tiny inconsistencies, like the lip sync is slightly off, or the voice sounds right, but the micro expressions on the face are wrong, or maybe the context just feels weird.
Precisely. Those subtle giveaways that the AI might generate imperfectly, or that a human observer might not consciously catch, but it's the system could flag.
But again, it's that arms race you mentioned.
It is. The generation tech gets better, the detection tech has to get better. It's a constant game of cat and mouse.
Okay, so tech is one part, but the sources really stress the human element too. Awareness and training.
Hugely important. Highlighted as critical, really, for employees inside companies and just for the general public.
And the goal is what? To teach people what deepfakes are, the risks.
Exactly. Understand the risks, learn some potential signs to look out for, and crucially, know how to react. Don't just share something if it looks suspicious. Report it. Verify.
Giving people practical tips like listen for weird audio artifacts or watch the eyes or does the situation even make sense?
Those kinds of things, yes. And pointing them towards verification tools if they exist. Training can happen in different ways, e-learning, workshops, maybe even simulated phishing-style drills, but with deepfakes.
And you need to tailor it, presumably. What finance needs to know is different from marketing, maybe.
Absolutely. Tailoring a content makes it much more effective. The sources even lay out steps for implementing this. Figure out your needs, create the content, pick your tools, plan the rollout, get people engaged, and keep monitoring and updating.
Because the tech changes so fast, it can't be a one-off training session.
Definitely not. It needs to be ongoing.
Okay. Beyond tech detection and human training, were there any broader strategies mentioned, like a different way of thinking?
Well, the World Economic Forum suggests something like a zero-trust approach.
Zero trust. Sounds intense.
It kind of is. It means constant verification, maintaining skepticism about pretty much all digital content by default. Don't just trust, verify.
Assume it might be fake until proven otherwise. That feels like a really significant shift in how we interact online.
It does, but maybe that's where deepfakes are pushing us. Gartner made a prediction that by 2026, almost a third of organizations will find biometric security, like face or voice ID, unreliable specifically because of deepfakes.
Wow. So even things we thought were secure are becoming vulnerable.
Which underlines why you need layers. The tech, yes, but also that human skepticism and awareness. Oh, and the sources did touch on legal and policy responses being discussed, especially by users online, but it wasn't the main focus of the material we had.
Right. So wrapping this up then, we've really explored how deepfake technology is advancing incredibly quickly. It's more realistic, it's more accessible.
And it's creating really significant threats. Financial security, like those huge fraud cases, personal privacy and dignity, and this broader erosion of trust in everything we see and hear digitally.
And these threats, especially the ones that manipulate human trust, are just sidestepping a lot of our traditional defenses.
Yeah, so the key things to take away for your listening are understanding what deepfakes are, recognizing the many often harmful ways they're being used right now.
Appreciating that impact on trust and information.
And knowing that fighting back needs both technology, better detection, and us. Human awareness, critical thinking that uphills skepticism.
It really feels like navigating this digital world now demands constant vigilance. We have to be more critical consumers of information than ever before. You just can't take things at face value online anymore.
You really can't. And that leads to the final thought we wanted to leave you with. If deepfakes are making digital stuff harder and harder to distinguish from reality,
And if they're chipping away at our fundamental trust in online communication.
what new strategies, what new mindsets do you think we all need to adopt to figure out what's true and what isn't in this evolving digital world?